It's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head chef of the Pemberton Township High School Food Service Program and your host, Tim Baroli.
Hello again. Welcome to What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli. Today we're going to take a fairly simple menu and we're going to show you some of the easy preparation that goes along with it. And it's a food that a lot of us enjoy, but at home we just don't tend to make it because we feel there's too much work involved. The dish we're going to begin showing you today is chicken pot pie. There's a bonus to this because the same crust that we're going to show you for the pot pie is the same one that you would use for any of the fruit pies or a filled pie. And then the second half of our program, we are going to take that lowly little pot pie and with the same basic ingredients and a few changes and an addition of a couple more, we're going to show you a classic dish which will be chicken a la king. So it's a way to prepare chicken a couple more different ways, and it's also one very easy way. And if you're cooking for a small group of people or there's not too many of you at home and you want to do all your cooking at once, these dishes freeze and microwave just great. Now I want to show you, before we show you one of our menus, I just want to take a peek over here in the pot that we have, and I want you to take a look because all of our ingredients that we're going to use today, all I did was take a chicken and we just boiled the chicken. So you see the chicken is in the pot there and all the juice, the stock, which is very nice, we have that in there. So wherever you see our recipes may call for water, if you've already boiled that chicken, you can add this instead of the water. So we're going to give you our first recipe today. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you the filling for the pot pie. And all you need for that is onion, carrot, celery, milk. And again, where I have the water, you can use the stock. We're going to use a little flour and butter, and I'll talk to you folks that are weight conscious or on a diet. We'll show you what you can do for a difference there, and some salt and white pepper. Now, once we have that list of ingredients, we're going to simmer that chicken, as I've shown you, until it's tender. And I have one already out of the pot and cooled down. It's easy to handle. The next thing is we're going to add the vegetables and cook them until they're tender. I'm going to show you how to thicken that chicken stock with what is known as a roux. And then we're going to check our seasoning, and we're going to bake that in a crust-covered casserole. Now, pot pie originally was used because it was a convenient way to prepare a lot of food when you weren't able to get a lot of things in a stove. So we can take this, and it's a casserole dish. It's got a biscuit on the side of it, which is right on the top, so the bread is along with it. It has its vegetables right in there and the sauce. So it's basically one of the meals that for you in the kitchen, it's very easy because it turns into a one casserole meal if you were to make this in a large dish. However, most of us today have seen it as an individual serving. And today, that's what we're going to prepare, individual servings, because with the conveniences we have at home, it's very easy to make these up and freeze them, and then we can just take them out, throw them in the refrigerator, and pop them in the oven. Or even faster than that, we can do them frozen right into the microwave. So I'm going to direct your attention over here to the chicken that we lifted out right before we went on the air. And I have this chicken has been boiled till it just about fell apart, and that's what we're looking for. A very, very tender chicken. Now, originally, dishes like this would use what is called fowl. In other words, a large hen that her days of laying eggs were over, so they would be much larger than this and would have to cook for a much longer period of time. However, if you're buying the small fryers that we can get very easily today, and the price on them is up terribly from last year, so this is a good way to stretch these. What you want to do is cook them, but they don't take as long. I only had to cook this one for about a half hour and brought it to a boil, simmered it, and then just shut it down and let it bubble very gently. And when I shut it off, lifted it out, it's very, very tender. It's pulling apart, and all we have to do, you can't ruin this. If you're going to try this at home, once you've boiled the chicken, you can't ruin it, because all you have to do now is take and separate the meat from the bones. And the reason that boiled chicken was so popular, as I alluded to before, that it was easy to do in one pot, you would get a lot out of it. Also, there's no waste on this. The only thing that will be thrown away when we're finished with it will be the bones like this. And as the cook, you're the one picking through the bones, so there's not going to be a whole lot of things that you're going to throw away. Where many times we do roast chicken or fried chicken and we see people eating the chicken that you work so hard over, and they don't pull it all off the bone, and then they grab another piece. Well, this way you have all the meat off of the chicken. And what I have left, if I want to reuse this into the stock, I can. And I can make another stock out of this using the carcass here and any of the meat that is left over. But what I'm going to do today is just pull off the breast meat there, and I'm going to take the skin off because we don't need that in the stock. And what is on the front here is a little bit of the fat. So since we have boiled this chicken and all the fat is risen to the top and pulled out of the meat, any of it that is left under the skin or on the skin, we take that off. So already we have reduced the fat on the chicken just by the way we cooked it. I'm going to pull one leg off too so that we see a difference in how that meat looks. And all I'm going to do, this will pull right off. I'm just laying the knife in there and just holding the knife against the body and pulling it apart. And I'm going to move this out of our way. And that'll just pull right off. And what I have now is all the chicken meat that I'm going to need for our pot pie. Now, boiling a chicken, if you haven't done it too often because you kind of thought it was only for when you were sick or was too much trouble, it's actually very easy. You put it on a stove. Once it comes to a boil, you can just turn it off and leave it go because it'll finish all by itself on the stove. So you don't have to worry about burning it. And you're going to get so many benefits out of it. If you feel that you do not have enough time, this is the way to cook it, because now, once we have all this meat off, first of all, it's already cooked. So if you want to make chicken salad, you're all set to go, and it's all done. You just take a portion of it out of the freezer, you can cut it before you put it in, and you're ready to go. Or if you're going to use it the way we are today, it's already cooked, there's no problem. We know how much meat we're going to have right at the beginning. Then what we're going to do is put a pan on the fire, and I'm going to put some of the stock into that pan. Now, the stock is in here, and we're going to just ladle some of that right out, right in there. And all I'm going to do is begin putting in our list of ingredients into this pan. Now, if you had vegetables ahead of time, carrot, celery, and onion, and you had trimmings from the carrots and the celery, you could put them right in with your chicken. Or you could, right before you shut the chicken off, throw those vegetables right in there and they would cook. Or you can do them the way we're going to do them today, and I think it gives us a fresher tasting product. All right, we're going to cut up the chicken, and I'll put that in there so I get that right out of the way. Now, pot pie, I like to find a nice size piece of meat in the pot pie when I'm eating it. I don't like a pot pie that hurts your eyes looking for it. So what we're going to do is leave these just the way we pulled them off of the carcass of the chicken, just like that. And we're going to put them in. Now we're going to save this nice hunk of meat for later on. And we're going to just cut this up into some chunks now. Now, keep in mind that we're leaving these fairly large, because what I'm going to do, and I lucked out today, we had carrot and celery sticks, so I swiped some of those, so that all the hard work on these two is done. We're going to just take these, and I'm going to cut these all at about the same size, except for the carrot. Since the carrot is going to take a lot longer to cook, those I'm going to cut smaller so that they will be done the same time the celery and the chicken is hot. So we're cutting them nice and small. Now these are mostly in this for color. So I've got enough of them there. That's going to add the kind of color that I want to it and the flavor that I'm looking for. So that goes right into that pot. And now we're going to cut some celery at a fairly decent size. So what we're going to do is I'm cutting these just the way they grow, at about 1/2 inch slices. So they go in like that. All right? So 1/2 inch, and they go in so that we have a nice chunk of celery in there. And I've put in more celery than I have with the carrot. So we have that in the pot now. And the last thing that we're going to cut for this is an onion. And all we have to do for that is take off the top end of the onion and the bottom end. And I'm going to just cut just enough so that we take that off and we keep the bottom of our onion on there so that we don't lose that. And we cut that in half. And that makes this onion very easy to peel. And then what we're going to do, since the chicken is in nice sized pieces, and we're going to keep them that way, we're going to sort of showcase that. And what we're going to do is cut this nice and small so that they're there, but they're not going to stand out. So we're going to cut them 2½ inches like that. Get rid of that piece I'm not going to use. And then I'm just going to take them again the other way, and they'll go right in. So now the largest pieces that we have in there is going to be the chicken. So we're going to give our pot a stir, and that's simmering already. And then we're going to get and thicken this just a little bit. Now, since this is already simmering, what I want to do is we're going to work right over this burner, and we're going to make a thickener for this. Now, since we're going to be preparing two dishes that are very, very similar, I would like to take this dish and thicken this with not so much fat. So I'm going to show you one way that you can thicken this and it won't have the fat content that it would normally have. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of milk, and I'm going to dissolve into this a little bit of cornstarch. Now you may say, gee, whenever I use the cornstarch, I always use water. Well, you can use water, and when you add the water and the cornstarch mixture to this, this will stay clear. And this is one time I don't want this to be clear. We want kind of an opaque or a cloudy color. And the milk is going to even whiten and lighten this sauce up. Now I'm stirring that with my fingers so that I can feel when all that cornstarch is dissolved. And where it isn't, I'm pushing it flat so it does dissolve. There we go. And now I'm going to just take our spoon. If you look into the pot, you will see that this is going to thicken as quickly as I pour this in. So that's boiling, and the vegetables have a nice bright color, and we're going to stir that. And I put that right in there. And now I'm going to stop and look at the thickness of that. Okay, I want that a little thicker. So I'm going to put all of it in. There we go. And we're going to let that come back to the boil. And then that's going to be it for our pie filling. And what we did was we reduced the fat again by not putting in butter and flour. All we did was a little bit of cornstarch and milk. And you can see that's thickening very nicely. And now we're going to turn that off, and we're going to give you the recipe for our crust, because that is what we're going to make next to put over top of our filling. Now, to make the pie crust, you're not seeing things. We didn't forget half of the ingredients. Pie crust, believe it or not, is probably the easiest thing you will ever have to make. What you need is flour, butter, and water. Or you can use flour, any kind of fat, and water. Those three ingredients. And we use the ratio when we are mixing a pie dough. And the ratio on pie dough is 3-to-1. So if you're writing it down, you've got flour and you've got the butter and water. So it's 3-to-1, and that's how we're going to use it. And here's what we're going to do with it. We're going to mix the flour and butter together till it gets to be the size of walnuts or peas. And then we're going to add our water all at once, and the dough will be ready. And that's how quick it is. So what I want to do is show you. We take some of our flour, and we're going to put some of the butter in there. Grab a clean spoon here. The biggest problem that most of us have when we make a pie dough is that we overmix it. What we do is we end up putting the things in there early. Now, once we add the water to this, this is going to become tough. So until I add the water, I can mix this like this all day. We won't have a problem with it. Now what I'm looking for is till I get that butter cut up until the size of either walnuts or peas. Doesn't matter, but we want them all similar in size. And as long as we have them similar in size, it's going to work out fine. Okay, so that's cut right in there. And then we're going to add our water to that. Put a little water right in the middle there. And then I'm just going to give that a stir just till it comes together. And this should look like a dough that isn't quite done. Okay, that's going to get a splash more water in it before I mix that any further. There we go. And this should be very coarse and very rough looking. It should look like, if you've ever made a bread dough, it should look like a bread dough before you get right to it and really knead it so you get it really smooth. And then all you have to do with this is press it out. And that's going to hold. It's going to be all coarse looking, and that's what I want. So now we have our pie dough ready. We take a couple of our pans. And we have our filling is done. Take the spoon and the pan right over there. Now remember, I didn't cook the daylights out of this because we're going to bake this again. Make sure they all have some chicken in them, unless you know where you're going to be sitting. There we go. Now peas are optional. You can add any other kind of vegetable you want to it. But you want to make sure you get a vegetable that is going to be able to hold up to baking, because that's just what we're going to do to it. We're going to bake these. So we have our little bit of dough here. We just squeeze that. You don't even have to worry about getting a rolling pin out and doing any of that to it. Just press them flat like that and right over top of it. And I don't have to worry about putting a hole in the top or anything, because the whole edge of this is not met together, so it's not going to hold it all in. So we pat that, turn that one right over, and then we're going to just pull enough here. Now this I'm going to squeeze together, because as long as I don't need this a lot, it's going to work out fine. And it should look like it's not done. It should look like, you're looking at that, you should say, gee, that doesn't look like that's put together well. Well, you don't want it put together real well, because that's when we have a problem with it. And this is going to go right into our oven. And all we're going to do is wait for these to bake. Now we're going to bake these at 400 degrees till the tops get nice and brown. So we're going to time them. They should take us only about 10 minutes. So while I'm watching and waiting for my pies to come out of the oven, I'd like you folks at home that if you need a recipe or have a question or comment, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to What's Cooking, care of Channel 15, PTHS number 2, Arnie's Mount Road, Pemberton, New Jersey, and our zip code is 08068.
The floral arrangements seen on the set of What's Cooking are provided by the Cranberry Blossom Floral Company, 120 Hanover Street in Pemberton, New Jersey. The Cranberry Blossom Floral Company specializes in flowers for all occasions, including those special designs for parties and weddings. That's the Cranberry Blossom Floral Company, your FTD florist in Pemberton, New Jersey. Call area 609-894-8080.
There is a need in your own hometown. Please join your local chapter.
Welcome back. Our pot pies are bubbling over nicely, as they always do and always will. And all we're going to do is wait for the top of that crust to brown a little bit. And once that happens, we know they're going to be finished because by the action of them bubbling up, they're cooking from the bottom right on through and up over the sides a little bit, and that's fine with me. I'm not too concerned with the bottom of the oven. Our next recipe that we're going to show you is how to make chicken a la king. And we're going to use the same method as far as the chicken meat. We're going to use cooked chicken meat. We're going to add onion, peppers, and mushrooms, and we're going to make a sauce out of the stock, the milk, and we are going to use a flour and butter roux. What we're going to do with these ingredients, the chicken we did simmer until it is tender. I have the vegetables and the chicken here. We're going to cut them for you and show you how that's done. And we're going to thicken it up, and we're going to finish that with milk. And we're going to serve that over noodles. Now the noodles are boiling away here finally. And what we're doing today to add color, I have the tricolored noodles here. They're all different colors. So they're going to boil away and have a good time until it's time to put them over top of our a la king. So we're going to lower that fire just a little bit. And I'm going to let them finish. And we're going to begin, since the a la king is kind of a fancier dish, I thought that we would save the one part of the breast meat that I have here for this dish. And the second reason that I'm doing that is not that I'm so nice, it's that we want this to be long and thin because we're going to cut the rest of our vegetables julienne style. So I want a piece of chicken meat that we can get into a long thin strip that is going to look just as nice as the rest of it. So we're going to put a saute pan over a medium fire. And I'm going to add some of our chicken stock right to that. This is a very, very quick dish. So we put our fire under that. And we're going to cut our vegetables long and thin. Now I have sweet green peppers and I also have here red peppers because if you, this time of year we can get them both. What you want to do is get some color. And if you don't have the opportunity to buy the fresh ones, you can always use the pimentos. They're a little more expensive. So we cut them nice and thin, and in they go. We're going to do the same with our onion. Now we have them in nice and thin. And we're going to cut a little bit of the red pepper. Now this has the same flavor as our green one, but it's going to add that color that we're after. Give us a nice splash of color. All right, so they go in on the bottom. The mushrooms. Next. And then the chicken. And we're going to cut this chicken long and thin. So all I do is go just about the way it grows and just cut it across. And if it breaks or I don't get every one just as thin as the one before it doesn't really matter. There we go, and I have that. And before I put the chicken meat in there, this is boiling already. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to put a little bit of milk in there just to lighten that up. And now we have to put a little white pepper and salt. And then we're going to mix a little bit of the butter with the flour. And all we want to do is make sure that we have all of that coated. And then we're going to mix some of this right into that. Just like that. We'll stir that right around. And right where I'm stirring it, it'll thicken right up. Now the onions have turned clear, so they're done. The mushrooms are wilting just a little bit, they're done. The sauce is thickening up, so that's done. The chicken meat we know we already cooked, so that's done. So that goes right in like that. And we turn that off because it's all done. And now we're going to pull out our pot pies and plate up our a la king. Now the pot pies, we're just going to pull one of them off here. pull this guy out of the bottom. Leave the other ones in there to cook a little bit longer. And we have that. And you can see that that crust is bubbled up and taken up some of the juice from the pot pie, and some of it that boiled over. That's always going to happen. I'd rather have them boil over a little bit than to lose and have them nice and dry. There's nothing worse than a pot pie that is really, really dry. If you're concerned about your oven, all you have to do is put a cookie or a disposable pie pan underneath them, the second rack down, and that'll take care of that. Now the a la king is all set, and all we have to do is slide that off onto these colored noodles right into the middle of them. And with all that color and everything cooked so nice and fresh, we're not going to have a, the color, the eye appeal is right in there, and you can, if you want to pick it out, but I think you're going to rather mix it all up. So our dishes today have been chicken pot pie and chicken a la king, and I want to review these recipes with you very quickly. Chicken pot pie, our ingredients were carrot, celery, and onion, and some stock or water, milk, flour, and butter, salt and pepper, and all we did was cut them all up. After we took our chicken and simmered it until it was tender, we cut our vegetables up smaller than the chicken, and then we thickened that stock. Now, we didn't thicken this one with a roux, which would be flour and fat. We thickened this with a little cornstarch and milk to cut down on the fat in this recipe. And then we checked the seasoning and baked them in a crust-covered casserole. Now, to make the crust for your casserole, flour, butter, or shortening, and water in a ratio of 3-to-1, the 3 being the flour, the 2 being the fat, and the 1 being the water. And all we had to do with that short list of ingredients was to cut in or mix the flour with the butter until it got the size of peas or walnuts. But the idea was that they were consistent in size. We dumped our water in all at once, even though I added a little bit toward the end. The a la king is more classical, so we took the best part, the chicken breast, cut them into strips with some onion, peppers, mushrooms. We used milk, water, and flour and butter to thicken this. So this was kind of a rich dish. We simmered the chicken as we did before until it was tender. We cut our chicken and vegetables all the same into long, thin strips or julienne. We thickened that with flour and butter, and we finished it with milk, and we served it over the colored noodles. So one way we showed you how to make one a little richer. Another way we showed you how to cut the calories. Thank you for watching.
Laughter should be the sound